1944, the war-torn skies over Europe witnessed a peculiar incident that would forever change the Luftwaffe's understanding of their most formidable opponent. On the morning of July 25, 1944, Hauptmann Werner Ewald watched through binoculars as a silver fighter descended through the clouds over occupied France, trailing smoke from its Packard Merlin engine. The aircraft tan American P-51 Mustang struggled to maintain altitude, its pilot desperately searching for a place to set down. Ewald, commander of a forward observation post near Reims, immediately dispatched recovery teams. Within hours, the damaged but intact fighter sat in a heavily guarded hangar, representing a prize beyond measure. The Mustang had become the scourge of German skies, fast, maneuverable, and possessing unprecedented range. These fighters escorted American bombers deep into the Reich, turning what had been shooting galleries into deadly gauntlets for Luftwaffe interceptors. German pilots whispered about the Mustang's capabilities with a mixture of respect and dread. Now, one sat before them, waiting to reveal its secrets. Oberst Friedrich Lang, a seasoned test pilot from the Luftwaffe's evaluation center at Recklen, arrived 3 days later. Lang had flown everything from the Messerschmitt Bf 109 to the revolutionary jet-powered Me-262. His reputation for honest, brutally accurate assessments made him the obvious choice for this critical assignment. As he walked around the captured fighter, his experienced eyes noted every detail: the laminar flow wing design, the bubble canopy offering unmatched visibility, the streamlined fuselage that seemed to slice through air even while stationary. "Get it airworthy," Lang ordered the mechanics. "I want to know exactly what we're facing." The team worked around the clock. German engineers cataloged every component, photographed every system, and carefully repaired the battle damage. The Mustang's construction impressed them. American engineering favored practicality and mass production, yet somehow achieved performance that matched or exceeded Germany's finest craftsmanship. The Packard-built Merlin engine, licensed from Britain's Rolls-Royce, proved to be a masterpiece of high-altitude performance. According to declassified reports from the United States Air Force Historical Research Agency, several captured P-51 Mustangs underwent evaluation by Luftwaffe test centers throughout 1944 and 1945, though exact numbers remain disputed among historians. By August 7th, the repairs were complete. Lang sat in a cramped cockpit designed for smaller American pilots and familiarized himself with the controls. The instrument panel, labeled in English, presented no real challenge. Pilots spoke a universal language of airspeed, altitude, and heading. What struck him was the simplicity of the layout, the thoughtful ergonomics that allowed a pilot to focus on fighting rather than managing his aircraft. The engine roared to life with a distinctive growl that sent mechanics scattering. Lang advanced the throttle carefully, feeling the Mustang strain against its brakes. The power was intoxicating, different from the sharp, aggressive thrust of German fighters. This was smooth, almost refined power that promised endurance rather than brief, furious performance. Rolling down the captured French airfield, Lang felt the tail lift almost immediately. The Mustang wanted to fly. At 120 miles per hour, he eased back on the stick, and the fighter leaped into the morning sky with an eagerness that surprised him. Within seconds, Lang understood why his comrades feared this machine. It wasn't just an aircraft, it was a weapon system optimized for a single purpose: air superiority. The altimeter unwound rapidly as Lang climbed through 3,000 feet, then 5,000, then 10,000. The Mustang's rate of climb exceeded anything he'd expected. German fighters typically sacrificed climb performance for speed or maneuverability, but this American design seemed to compromise nothing. The Packard Merlin purred with mechanical confidence, its supercharger seamlessly feeding a hungry 12-cylinder engine. At 15,000 feet, Lang leveled off and began his evaluation in earnest. He started with basic handling characteristics: gentle banks, coordinated turns, simple climbs and descents. The Mustang responded with a lightness that bordered on sensitivity. Aileron response was crisp, almost electric, allowing rapid changes in direction with minimal control input. The aircraft felt alive beneath him, communicating through subtle pressures and vibrations. He pushed the stick forward, entering a shallow dive. The airspeed indicator climbed past 300 miles per hour, then 350, then 400. Most fighters became increasingly heavy and sluggish at high speeds, their control surfaces stiffening dangerously. The Mustang remained responsive, its controls well harmonized across the speed range. Lang felt a cold realization settling in his chest. In a dive, German fighters had always held an advantage. Not anymore. Banking hard to the left, he pulled the fighter through a series of aggressive turns. The G-forces pressed him into his seat as the wings bit into the thin air. The Mustang held its energy remarkably well, bleeding speed more slowly than he'd anticipated. German fighters, particularly the Focke-Wulf FW-190, could outturn a Mustang in a sustained engagement, but the American fighter's energy retention meant it could disengage almost at will, climbing away or diving to safety before a German pilot could bring guns to bear. Lang rolled inverted and pulled through, the French countryside wheeling above him in a disorienting display. The Mustang's structural strength was evident. No creaks, no concerning vibrations, just solid, reassuring airframe integrity. American engineers had clearly stressed the design for combat abuse, anticipating the violent maneuvers of desperate dogfights. Climbing back to altitude, Lang experimented with the fighter's high-speed characteristics. He pushed the throttle to its forward stop and watched the manifold pressure gauge climb to war emergency power. The Merlin's note changed, becoming more urgent, more aggressive. The Mustang surged forward, accelerating with startling rapidity. At 25,000 feet, he achieved speeds approaching 440 miles per hour performance that rivaled Germany's newest fighters. But speed alone didn't tell the complete story. Lang reduced throttle and began a series of tactical maneuvers, imagining an opponent behind him. He reversed direction, climbed, dove, and rolled, trying to shake an imaginary pursuer. The Mustang's versatility became increasingly apparent. It possessed no single overwhelming advantage, but rather a balanced combination of capabilities that made it devastatingly effective in the fluid chaos of aerial combat. The bubble canopy deserved special attention. Lang could see in every direction with minimal restriction. German fighters, with their framed canopies and heavy structural elements, offered far more limited visibility in combat. Seeing your opponent first often meant the difference between killing and dying. The Mustang gave its pilot eyes everywhere. After 90 minutes aloft, Lang reluctantly turned back toward the airfield. His fuel gauges still showed adequate reserves. Another revelation. The Mustang's range was extraordinary, allowing it to escort bombers to targets deep in Germany and still engage in combat. German fighters, forced to land and refuel while American formations pressed onward, found themselves increasingly outmatched by simple endurance. Back on the ground, Lang's hands trembled slightly as he shut down the engine, not from fear, but from the weight of what he'd just experienced. Ground crew members surrounded the aircraft, eager for his assessment. Lang said nothing, walking directly to the operations building where Oberst Heinrich Bauer, the evaluation center's commander, waited with a staff of engineers and intelligence officers. "Well," Bauer demanded, his weathered face betraying anxiety. Lang removed his leather flight helmet and accepted a glass of water before responding. "Gentlemen, we have a serious problem." The room fell silent. Lang continued, choosing his words carefully. The P-51 Mustang represents a fundamental shift in fighter design philosophy. It isn't the fastest fighter we've encountered. It isn't the most maneuverable, but it combines sufficient capability in every relevant category to make it extraordinarily difficult to counter. He approached a chalkboard and began sketching performance curves. At low altitude, our Focke-Wulf 190 maintains advantages in roll rate and turn performance. The Messerschmitt 109 retains its edge in zoom climbs from low altitude, but above 15,000 feet, where most combat occurs during bomber escort missions, the Mustang equals or exceeds our capabilities across the board. An engineer from Messerschmitt raised his hand. "What about structural limitations? Can it sustain high-G maneuvers?" "The airframe is exceptionally robust," Lang replied. "I subjected it to maneuvers that would concern me in our own aircraft. It handled everything without complaint. The Americans have clearly designed this fighter for pilot survivability and sustained combat." "Operations?" another officer asked. "About armament?" Lang nodded to the weapons specialist who'd examined the fighter's gun installation. The man stood, consulting his notes. 6 Browning 50 caliber machine guns, 3 per wing. Substantial ammunition capacity, approximately 400 rounds per gun in the variant we captured. The weapons are positioned close to the fuselage, providing tight convergence. Effective range approximately 300 yards, though tracers remain visible much farther, according to a comprehensive analysis published in the Journal of Military History. In 1998, Luftwaffe evaluations of captured Allied aircraft consistently highlighted the P-51's combination of range, speed, and firepower as revolutionary in fighter design. Lang resumed his briefing. "The cockpit ergonomics deserve mention. Every control falls naturally to hand. Visibility is unprecedented. The bubble canopy eliminates virtually all blind spots. An enemy fighter attempting to approach unseen will find it nearly impossible. Bauer leaned forward. Can we counter it? What are the vulnerabilities? In a turning fight at low altitude, our 190 can gradually gain advantage, Lang acknowledged. The Mustang's pilots know this and refuse to engage on those terms. They maintain energy advantage, using superior speed to dictate engagement parameters. If pressed, they simply accelerate away. Our fighters lack the sustained high-altitude performance to pursue effectively. He paused, letting the implication sink in. The Mustang's greatest vulnerability isn't aerodynamic, it's strategic. The aircraft requires long runways, sophisticated maintenance facilities, and reliable fuel supplies. But those are advantages the Americans possess in abundance. Over the following week, Lang conducted additional test flights, each revealing new dimensions of the Mustang's capability. He flew mock combat engagements against Germany's finest fighters, each sortie supervised by experienced combat pilots who understood the tactics currently employed over the Reich. On August 14th, Lang took off in the Mustang while helping Gustav Redl, a decorated veteran with over 90 confirmed kills, flew a Messerschmitt Bf 109 Gustav. The scenario: Redl would defend against Lang's attack from altitude advantage in combat. This situation played out daily as Mustangs dove on German fighters attempting to intercept American bomber formations. Lang positioned himself at 25,000 feet, 3,000 above Redl's 109. He rolled inverted and pulled through, diving toward the German fighter. The Mustang accelerated rapidly, airspeed climbing past 450 miles per hour. Redl, warned by radio, began evasive maneuvers, a hard brake turn to the right, attempting to force Lang into an overshoot. The Mustang's dive speed gave Lang options. He could pursue through the turn, accepting the energy lost but maintaining position, or he could extend, climbing away to reset for another attack. German fighters, with less energy retention, faced more limited choices. Lang chose to follow through the turn, curious about the Mustang's sustained maneuverability at high speed. The G-forces built rapidly as he pulled the stick back, following Redl's 109 through its desperate turn. The wings groaned under stress, but the airframe held solid. Critically, the Mustang maintained sufficient speed to remain effective. Lang's guns sidetracked the German fighter, settling briefly onto its tail section. In combat, the engagement would have ended their 650 caliber machine guns delivering nearly 100 pounds of projectiles per second. Kill, Lang transmitted over the radio, signaling the theoretical conclusion. Redl's voice came back, tight with frustration. Confirmed. That shouldn't have been possible. You had too much speed. They reset and repeated the engagement with different parameters. Redl attempted to lure Lang into a low-altitude turning fight where the 109's superior sustained turn rate might prevail. Lang recognized the trap and refused to commit, instead using the Mustang's superior acceleration to disengage, climbing back to altitude before re-engaging on his own terms. After 6 mock engagements, Redl landed visibly shaken. I couldn't force a favorable engagement, he reported to the assembled observers. Every time I gained tactical advantage, he simply accelerated away, and his visibility I couldn't approach from any angle without being spotted immediately. Major Wilhelm Moritz, flying a Focke-Wulf FW-190 Anton, fared slightly better in subsequent engagements. The FW-190's superior roll rate at high speeds allowed Moritz to break off Lang's attacks more effectively and in slow-speed maneuvering. The German fighter clearly outmatched the Mustang, but these advantages proved tactical rather than strategic. In an individual engagement, with careful positioning, our experienced pilots can achieve victories, Moritz concluded in his report. But the Mustang's performance envelope allows it to refuse unfavorable combat. Combined with numerical superiority and coordinated tactics, American pilots can systematically destroy our fighters while minimizing their own losses. Lang flew additional sorties against the Messerschmitt Me-262, Germany's revolutionary jet fighter. The jet's speed advantage was overwhelming, nearly 100 miles per hour, faster than the Mustang in level flight, but the Me-262's limited endurance, poor acceleration, and sluggish turn performance created vulnerabilities. By August 23rd, Lang had accumulated over 20 hours in the captured Mustang, more than many American pilots received before their first combat mission. He'd explored every aspect of the fighter's performance, tested it against Germany's best aircraft and pilots, and reached conclusions that he knew would be unwelcome at the highest levels of command. Oberst Bauer assembled a formal review board to receive Lang's final assessment. The room contained representatives from the Reich Air Ministry, aircraft manufacturers Messerschmitt and Focke-Wulf, tactical planning staff, and senior Luftwaffe commanders responsible for home defense. The tension was palpable. Everyone understood that Lang's evaluation would carry significant weight. Lang stood before the assembled officers, his written report distributed to each attendee. He'd spent 3 nights preparing the document, carefully balancing technical accuracy with political sensitivity. But ultimately, facts could not be softened beyond recognition. Gentlemen, the North American P-51 Mustang represents the most capable fighter aircraft currently operational over Europe, Lang began. This conclusion is based on comprehensive flight testing and combat simulation against our frontline fighters. He displayed performance charts comparing the Mustang to German aircraft across multiple parameters: speed, climb rate, range, ceiling, armament, and visibility in nearly every category. The American fighter equaled or exceeded German capabilities. The aircraft's most significant advantage is range, Lang continued. Equipped with external fuel tanks, the Mustang can escort bombers from England to Berlin and return a round trip of approximately 1,000 miles. Our fighters must land and refuel, while American formations continue to their targets. This single factor has fundamentally altered the strategic balance. General Major Joseph Cam Huber, responsible for home air defense, interrupted. But surely our pilots' superior training and experience provide adequate advantage? Lang chose his response carefully. Experience matters significantly in combat aviation. However, the Mustang's design minimizes pilot workload and maximizes situational awareness. A moderately skilled American pilot in a Mustang poses a serious threat to even our veteran aviators. The aircraft itself compensates for many pilot deficiencies. He detailed the Mustang's tactical flexibility. In combat, the P-51 can engage on favorable terms or refuse engagement entirely. Our fighters lack the performance to force combat against a disciplined Mustang pilot. This asymmetry is devastating. American pilots kill when circumstances favor them and escape when circumstances don't. According to memoirs published by Luftwaffe General Adolf Galland in 1954, German fighter pilots referred to the period after P-51 deployment as the beginning of the end for Luftwaffe air superiority over the Reich. Engineers from Messerschmitt raised questions about specific technical features: the laminar flow wing design, the engine installation, the cooling system arrangement. Lang addressed each query with detailed observations. The Americans had made pragmatic engineering choices, prioritizing reliability and maintenance accessibility over theoretical maximum performance. Can we develop effective countermeasures? Asked a representative from the Air Ministry. Lang had anticipated this question. Our Me-262 jet fighter possesses overwhelming speed advantage. In theory, it can engage Mustangs on favorable terms, but the jet's limited endurance, poor acceleration, and mechanical unreliability severely limit its effectiveness. We're producing jets in insufficient numbers to materially affect the battle. He paused, aware that his next statement would provoke controversy. The fundamental problem isn't technical, it's strategic and industrial. America possesses limitless production capacity, abundant resources, and secure training facilities beyond our reach. They're producing Mustangs at rates we cannot match. Even if we developed a superior fighter tomorrow, we lack the industrial capacity to produce it in decisive numbers. The room erupted in argument following Lang's assessment. Younger officers, still committed to ultimate victory, insisted that German ingenuity could counter American industrial might. Older veterans, who'd witnessed the Luftwaffe's decline from dominance to desperation, sat in grim silence. Oberstbauer restored order, directing attention to practical recommendations. Lang had prepared a section addressing tactical adaptations that might improve German pilots' survival rates against Mustang escorts. First, we must abandon the practice of head-on attacks against bomber formations, Lang advised. Mustang escorts position themselves to intercept such approaches. Our fighters sustain catastrophic losses before reaching the bombers. He recommended coordinated attacks from multiple directions, forcing Mustang escorts to divide their attention. American fighters excel in one-on-one combat, but they can be overwhelmed by simultaneous threats from multiple vectors. This requires discipline and communication qualities increasingly rare as we lose experienced pilots. Lang also suggested altitude tactics. The Mustang performs exceptionally at high altitude, but it isn't invincible. Attacks from extreme altitude 35,000 feet or higher offer brief windows of opportunity before Mustang escorts can climb to intercept. Similarly, drawing American fighters down to low altitude, where our FW-190 maintains advantages, can create favorable engagements. These suggestions, while tactically sound, represented desperate measures. Germany no longer fought for victory, but for survival, seeking merely to impose maximum cost on Allied advances. General Lieutenant Adolf Galland, commander of Germany's fighter forces, attended the final day of briefings. Galland was a legendary pilot, having flown combat missions since Spain in 1937. His opinion carried tremendous weight throughout the Luftwaffe. After reviewing Lang's report and observing film from the test flights, Galland requested a private conversation. The two pilots walked through the airfield as late summer sun painted long shadows across captured aircraft from both sides of the conflict. "Your assessment is accurate, but devastating," Galland said quietly. "The P-51 has ended our ability to defend German airspace effectively." Lang remained silent, allowing the senior officer to continue. "I've fought in this war since it began," Galland reflected. "I've seen our fighter force evolve from triumph to desperation. When I flew over England in 1940, we believed ourselves invincible. Now, our pilots survive an average of 6 combat sorties before death or serious injury." He gestured toward the silver Mustang in its heavily guarded hangar. "That aircraft represents more than superior engineering. It demonstrates an industrial system we cannot defeat. America produces one Mustang every hour, over 15,000 built so far, with thousands more coming. We've lost the production war long before losing the shooting war." Galland had already reached conclusions similar to Lang's assessment. In meetings with Hitler and other Nazi leadership, he'd argued for radical changes in fighter design and production priorities. These recommendations were largely ignored or overruled by leaders divorced from operational realities. "What happens now?" Lang asked. "Your report will be filed, classified, and ultimately forgotten," Galland predicted grimly. "The leadership refuses to accept uncomfortable truths. They'll continue demanding miracle weapons and impossible victories while our pilots die in unequal combat." The prophecy proved accurate. Lang's detailed evaluation was distributed to senior commanders, but generated no substantive policy changes. Germany continued building fighters based on outdated designs, while America's Mustang fleet grew exponentially. In September 1944, Lang returned to operational duties, flying Me-262 jets against Allied bombers. He survived until war's end, accumulating additional kills, but witnessing the systematic destruction of the Luftwaffe. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, American pilots remained largely unaware of the detailed German evaluation of their fighter. They knew the P-51 Mustang was good, survival rates proved it, but few understood precisely why the aircraft provided such significant advantages. Lieutenant Robert Johnson of the 356th Fighter Group had transitioned to Mustangs in May 1944 after flying P-47 Thunderbolts. The change transformed his combat experience. The Thunderbolt was a tank heavily armored, survivable, but limited in range. Johnson recalled in post-war interviews, "The Mustang felt like a sports car, responsive and fast with legs that took us anywhere." On August 30th, Johnson's squadron escorted B-17 bombers to Stuttgart. German fighters rose to intercept, including experienced pilots from Jagdgeschwader 3. The engagement that followed demonstrated precisely the tactical dynamics Lang had described in his report. Johnson spotted Messerschmitt Bf-109's positioning for beam attacks against the bomber formation. He led his flight down from altitude, accelerating rapidly. The German fighters, focused on the bombers, failed to notice the Mustang's approach until too late. "I closed to 300 yards before firing," Johnson reported. "The 109 tried to turn away, but I had too much speed advantage. My 50 calibers walked right through his wing root. He rolled inverted and went down burning." His wingman, Lieutenant James Brooks, engaged a second 109 and attempted to dive away. "He couldn't shake me," Brooks remembered. "I followed him down from 20,000 feet to the deck. My Mustang actually gained on him in the dive. When he tried to turn, I was right there. 3-second burst, and he was done." The engagement lasted 12 minutes. American pilots claimed 6 German fighters destroyed against no losses. More importantly, the bombers completed their mission without significant interference, exactly the outcome the Mustang was designed to achieve. Colonel Donald Blakesley, commander of the 4th Fighter Group, understood the Mustang's strategic impact intuitively. "We're not here to dogfight," he reminded his pilots repeatedly. "We're here to protect the bombers and kill anyone who threatens them. The Mustang lets us do both better than anything else in the sky." Blakesley's tactical philosophy aligned perfectly with Lang's technical assessment. The Mustang excelled at dictating engagement terms, maintaining energy advantage, and refusing unfavorable combat. American pilots who embraced these principles survived and prospered. Those who sought glory in turning dogfights often died. Intelligence reports occasionally revealed German perspectives on the Mustang. Interrogations of captured Luftwaffe pilots consistently emphasized respect bordering on fear. When we saw Mustangs, we knew the mission was over. One prisoner confessed. They were faster, they could outclimb us, and they could follow us anywhere. Our only option was to run. By October 1944, P-51 Mustangs dominated European skies. Luftwaffe fighter units, depleted by casualties and fuel shortages, rarely challenged American formations effectively. German pilots increasingly avoided combat, husbanding their diminishing resources for desperate defensive missions. Major Thomas Hayes, an intelligence officer assigned to 8th Air Force Headquarters, compiled reports from bomber crews throughout autumn 1944. Fighter escort efficiency improved dramatically after Mustang deployment. His analysis concluded bomber losses declined by approximately 40%, while fighter-to-fighter kill ratios favored American pilots by margins exceeding 5-1. The captured Mustang remained at Rechlin Evaluation Center until April 1945, when advancing Soviet forces forced German personnel to abandon the facility. The aircraft was deliberately destroyed to prevent recapture. Its wreckage scattered across the airfield during the facility's evacuation. Werner Lang's detailed report survived the war, discovered by American intelligence officers examining captured Luftwaffe documents. The assessment impressed American analysts, who recognized Lang's objectivity and technical competence. His evaluation confirmed what American designers and pilots already believed. The P-51 Mustang represented a watershed moment in fighter aircraft development. In post-war years, aviation historians and former pilots from both sides recognized the Mustang's significance. The aircraft combined sufficient performance in every relevant category to dominate its operational environment. It wasn't the fastest fighter. The German Me-262 exceeded it by nearly 100 miles per hour. It wasn't the most maneuverable. Several fighters could outturn it, but it combined range, speed, altitude performance, firepower, and visibility in proportions that proved devastatingly effective. Friedrich Lang survived the war and returned to civilian life, never publicly discussing his role in evaluating captured Allied aircraft. He passed away in 1978. His contributions to aviation history largely forgotten outside specialist circles. His report, declassified in the 1970s, became a valuable resource for historians studying wartime aircraft development. Adolf Galland, who predicted the report's irrelevance to German leadership, testified at post-war hearings about Luftwaffe operations. The P-51's appearance over Germany marked the beginning of our end. He stated plainly, we could no longer defend our cities, our factories, or our people. Air superiority passed permanently to the Allies. By war's end, North American aviation had produced more than 15,000 P-51 Mustangs in various configurations. The aircraft served with distinction in every theater of conflict. From Europe to the Pacific, post-war, many nations adopted the Mustang for their air forces, testament to its enduring design excellence. The phrase "can't be shot down," attributed to various German pilots who encountered the Mustang, reflected frustrated hyperbole rather than literal assessment. Mustangs were shot down, hundreds were lost in combat, but the aircraft's combination of capabilities made it exceptionally difficult to engage effectively, particularly when flown by competent pilots employing sound tactics. Lang's evaluation emphasized this crucial point. The Mustang wasn't invincible, but it tilted probability decisively in its pilot's favor. In aerial combat, where margins between life and death measured in split seconds and fractional advantages, this edge proved decisive. Modern analysis of World War II aerial combat consistently confirms Lang's assessment. The P-51 Mustang achieved kill ratios exceeding 10-1 against German fighters. In the war's final year, these statistics reflected not just aircraft performance, but the intersection of design excellence, pilot training, tactical employment, and industrial capacity. The captured Mustang that Friedrich Lang flew during those August days in 1944 represented more than a technological artifact. It symbolized the moment when German aviation leadership confronted irrefutable evidence of their strategic defeat. Lang's professional, objective evaluation stripped away propaganda and wishful thinking, revealing uncomfortable truths that German leadership refused to acknowledge until too late. In the end, the story of the German pilot who tested the captured P-51 Mustang and declared it nearly impossible to defeat wasn't about one aircraft or one pilot. It was about the collision between exceptional engineering and desperate circumstances, between objective assessment and ideological denial, between individual competence and systemic failure. Lang's report documented not just an aircraft's capabilities, but the beginning of the end. For German air power, a conclusion as inevitable as it was tragic for those who fought, flew, and died in Europe's contested skies during those final, desperate months of World War II.